Um, Hello, everyone. I can see people are kind of coming into the room, and so we're just going to give everyone a minute. We're still a little bit early for people to populate in, and then we'll get started on our session. Okay, I think it seems like everyone's popped in already, so we'll go ahead and get started. Um, Hello, my name is Jaleh Fazalian, and I am the Associate Dean of Libraries at the University of Missouri St. Louis, and I am one of the members of the Planning Committee for the Missouri A and OER Conference, which you are an attendee, so welcome. This is our 5th year, and we're pretty happy about that. So just a few logistical things off the top. We do have a transcriber who is doing live captioning that is available during this presentation. This presentation and the captioning will be available on our website soon after the conference ends. Additionally, you can enter all of the questions or comments you might have for the presenters in the Q&A or the chat, and we'll hold those to the end and then let you ask any of the questions that you might have. So let me know. You can always send me a message in the chat if you're having any technical difficulties. But otherwise, it's time for our presentation. And it is titled, oh yes, thank you. Bridging the Divide, an example of strong interdepartmental collaboration for student success, presented by Rachel Becker and Holly Deering. So Rachel Becker is currently a copyright and open educational resource librarian at Madison Area Technical College. Rachel is also an EDD candidate at Johns Hopkins School of Education, focusing on textbook affordability through the use of OER. Holly Deering is the Associate Manager of Operations for the bookstore at Madison College. Holly is passionate about supporting diverse student populations and had a successful launch of a textbook rental program, making textbooks more affordable and accessible. And that's very exciting to me because as an undergrad, that's all my school was textbook rental, and I loved it 100%. And now you won't hear any more from me for a while, and I turn it over to our wonderful presenters. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So again, my name is Rachel Becker. I'm the copyright and OER librarian at Madison College. And Holly is here with me. And together we're going to talk about the partnership that we have together at the college to make everything more affordable here. And thank you for introducing yourselves in the chat. It's always interesting and informative for us too to see where everybody's from. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen for the presentation. All right. So this is just kind of our general layout today. So we're getting to know each other in the chat. So thank you for doing that. Some background about the program, our workflow of how we work together, kind of the feedback that we've gotten on the programs, and then also actionable steps that you could take at your own institutions. So again, this is us. We'll share our contact information after as well.
So the Textbook Affordability Committee that we have here at the college is a cross-functional committee. It was created in 2018 by the college to maintain its continued commitment to textbook affordability. The committee meets monthly during the academic year, and Rachel and I serve as co-chairs of this committee. This experience has allowed us to bridge the usual gap between the bookstore and the library, and we formed a bond over the years of being co-chairs, which has helped build that relationship between the two departments. The committee is responsible for supporting the long-term success of the textbook adoption policy and the textbook rental program. Departments then present affordability concerns or other issues related to course materials that they encounter. And then in response, the committee develops recommendations to address these issues and create and implements action plans. Additionally, the committee does work on crafting communications that are sent out to faculty regarding course material.
There we go. My unmute button got lost. And Holly, do you want to give some examples of the types of positions that are on the committee, along with the bookstore and the library?
Yeah, so various departments. So we have everyone from someone from Student Senate to we have advisors, people from the RISE department, Start College Now, so advisors that work with high school students. We have some faculty, both full and part-time, that's on the committee. We have representation from our financial aid department, from I'm trying to think, budget office. We have someone from budget office that's on the committee. We have someone from student life. So we did really try to have a wide representation on this committee from all areas of the college. So from those advisors, counselors that first might meet with those students, to people in other departments that might interact with the students when it comes to financial aid, or other aspects where we're getting our message across, but we're also hearing that issues that they might be hearing that we normally would not hear about when it comes to affordability and course materials and student success within their courses.
Yeah, and I will add that this team also works on promoting the program and getting the word out about it as well. So a lot of different things that this group does. All right.
And then, so with that rental program, which was possible because Madison College administration worked closely with our student senate, one of the big issues was textbook affordability and being able to afford textbooks, which we know leads to success within courses. And so in the fall of 2018, the students voted for a textbook rental program. And the college did provide the initial startup costs to start the rental program. The program started in the summer of 2019 and is $7 per degree credit. This degree credit fee does cover the vast majority of course materials. The fee has not changed since the start of the program due to affordability initiatives such as OER. The rental program has helped to change that perception of students and the college bookstore. Prior to the rental program, the college bookstore was not necessarily a like department within the college, and the goal of the bookstore was to receive revenue and be able to provide that back to the college. But now with the rental program, students are coming in, they don't have $200-300 purchases at the register. They're coming in, and again, the vast majority of the course materials are covered, so there's no charge when they're picking up those textbooks. The rental program and the bookstore are both college-ran departments. Our bookstore is not outsourced, it is ran by the college. We share the same space, however, we do operate under two different budgets. The bookstore revenue does still come from merchandise and then the purchase of some one-time use materials, whereas the rental program is funded by the $7 per credit fee. The two departments do share some staff, and those positions are split by a percentage based on the job descriptions.
Okay, so one of the things that we hear about is why should faculty members adopt OER when we have this rental program that is covering the costs of a lot of the materials? So something that we look at is the reducing the cost to the rental program, which allows other materials to be added. So as we know, textbook prices are increasing, the use of access codes are adding additional costs. This is helping the rental program keep that fee static at $7 per credit hour, or potentially looking at a suggested decrease depending on how things go in the future. Something that we've had is publisher wait times and physical book issues. Holly, would you like to touch on that a bit?
Yes, so with that rental program, we do use physical textbooks, and that is one in part to, we have students all over the state of Wisconsin and all over the country. And so internet accessibility is not always a possibility for some of our students, as well as technology. And sometimes too, with just working on maybe one screen, our faculty have found that having some type of physical book has been very beneficial to the students and their success in the course. And so getting physical books from publishers as they're trying to push all digital is very challenging. And in a lot of cases, we have to actually request custom books where we're reducing the number of chapters so that we can fit within this custom model that the publisher has. And so once it's custom, then they're only printing once we order that book. And so we have to wait for that order to go through, get those books printed in the quantity that's needed, and then shipped to us. Most of the time we're seeing 6 to 8 weeks, if not longer, for some of these custom books to get to us. And so those wait times, depending on when faculty submit the order to us or completes that custom process with the publisher, books may not always get here in time for the start of class. And that defeats the purpose of the rental program, which is having those materials by the first day of class. And that kind of defeats the purpose of having a physical book if you cannot get it here in time for the class. And then in some cases, some publishers just refuse to create a physical book. And so we're not able to obtain the edition that the faculty wants to use of that particular title because the publisher will not provide that to us.
And then it, like Holly said, it streamlines the ordering process and meets state procurement guidelines. Would you want to touch on that, Holly, again?
Yeah, so with the WTCS, Wisconsin Technical College Systems, for us to order materials, we do have to give board approval or have an RFP completed from these publishers. And so that is a very time-consuming process. When we're doing OER, we don't have to go through that. If it's being, printed in-house, or if it's going out through an OER site, we don't have to go through that same procurement guidelines with the state. And so that saves substantial amount of time, not only from the textbook rental side of things, but also from our purchasing department. That saves their staff time as well.
So ways that we've seen OER being used with the rental program is starting small with a course pack. So faculty don't need to adopt an entire book or an entire course shell within their learning management system. But a lot of our math faculty are looking at creating course packs and using that alongside either non-OER or My Open Math Lab, which the math department has been heavily engaged in the creation of course shells there. So this also works well for faculty who want current materials. I don't remember if we touched on this, but the bookstore, the rental cycle goes in, it's 3 years, correct, Holly? Yeah, so faculty don't always have the option of getting that most current edition, but being able to get that course pack, they can update that more consistently. It is cost savings for students when they do get OER. The My Open Math Lab, which we'll talk about in a little bit, that is saving students a significant amount of money, because that is if they're using the commercial product My Math Lab, that's money that they're having to pay outside of the rental program. if there's something that's not included in the rental program, but faculty would like it included, depending on the cost, that is an option as well, falling into that affordable material. And flip to the next slide. There we go. Okay, so the library is the OER lead at the college. That's fairly common or typical, I think, for a lot of different situations. Over the years, in my position, I've worked very hard to position the library as that go-to resource for OER support and advocacy. I work to identify opportunities for adoption, so targeting departments where we either frequently see issues with obtaining the textbooks, areas where faculty may not be happy with their current edition, or if they're just interested in exploring other options. And we often do that kind of in that transition time when our 3-year cycle is coming up and faculty are able to make those switches. We've also been tasked with formalizing the OER program at the college, which we've just formed a steering committee, which has been meeting for a little over a year now, and has been looking at ways to foster that OER atmosphere at the college. Because prior to a few years ago, OER was being used, but it was spotty, and we didn't really know much about who's using it, which we still don't know exactly how many people are using it, but we do know that its usage is growing. The bookstore library partnership formed from conversations about general textbook access. When I joined the Textbook Affordability Committee, I believe that was in 2019. So that was kind of the first time that the library and bookstore worked together. We formed around these core principles that we have at the college, which is timely access to textbooks, affordable access to learning materials, and then providing that flexibility to faculty so that they're able to make those materials relevant to their students in a way that works for them. We've also worked with several statewide OER projects within the past 2 years. The state of Wisconsin, through their government budget process, was able to provide a substantial amount of money for OER development within the Wisconsin Technical College system. And Madison College was a recipient of that bit of money. So we've been working on projects now for the last 2 years, which is coming up for renewal, and fingers crossed that gets renewed. This is really our first OER grant for our college, although we've worked on broader projects like the Open RN grant, which was run by Chippewa Valley Technical College. So we're actively working with colleges outside of us to get materials into the hands of faculty or provide those opportunities for faculty to do that development while still getting paid for it and getting that stipend that is so important for their programs. So this is oh, Holly, is this your slide?
It's good. We can share it. So this is the workflow of the library and OER and the bookstore relationship. And step one is need, right? So it always starts because the faculty, they're reaching out. There's a need. Because we know when things are going well, they just, they don't reach out. So the rental program has definitely helped with bridging some of those communication gaps between the bookstore administration and faculty. Prior to the rental program, there was not a lot of communication, a lot of outreach happening. With the rental program, we do work more closely with the administration, deans, and faculty. And this has helped to build a better relationship with the faculty members. So we actually meet with the faculty members on a regular basis to make sure that the course materials that they are using really is a best fit for the course. And then during these meetings, that is when we'll discuss issues if we're having obtaining copies of the books that they are looking for, or any student feedback that we may have heard, whether it's through a department via TAC or through Rachel and the library, or students coming to the bookstore. And then we're going to listen to that feedback that we get from those meetings and then use that to help them with selecting materials that might work better for them. And so once we obtain that feedback and have those meetings, then that's step 2, where we're searching and reaching out to Rachel. So over the last several years, we have worked with numerous faculty and departments on switching the publisher materials they're using over to OER materials. And the switch usually occurs because of one of the following. Faculty are not happy with how the publisher materials are aligning with their teaching. The increased cost of materials, especially if it's a cost where students have to purchase because it's not part of the rental program. Students struggling with the published materials. So kind of like Rachel was talking about, those access codes, like My Math Lab, because we'd use Vital Source, a third-party vendor. And it's a very tedious process for redemption of those codes. And then the last one is the rental program is just not able to obtain enough copies for the enrolled students. And so this then is when I reach out to Rachel and have her join into the conversation to help faculty find OER materials that will address the issue that is at hand. And then she kind of takes over. She works with the faculty to see what their needs are and compiles a list of OER materials that would fit their needs. The faculty then go back, they review those materials with their department, and they select the ones that work best for them and their class, which then moves us into step 3, our action step. So Rachel and I work with the faculty then to see if they want a physical printed option for their students. Again, in most cases they do. And again, that's going back to, you know, the internet access or access to a digital device. And so then we work to get a physical copy as well as that digital copy, which Rachel works with them to get that linked into the LMS system. And then we'll get the physical copy. That'll be part of the rental program. And then a lot of times, this is a point too, where faculty may also create a course pack as a supplement to go along with that OER material. And then that moves us into step 4, which is a review step. And so Rachel and I then circle back with the instructors at the end of the semester just to check in and see how the materials worked. And then we gather faculty and student feedback. And then we're just checking in to see, like, do adjustments need to be made to the OER materials that were selected based on this feedback. And so through all these steps and the Textbook Affordability Committee, Rachel and I do spend a lot of time together and have a lot of communication back and forth. And so that has also really helped to build that bridge between the departments, is just all this collaboration. And then also, kind of like Rachel mentioned, we have a goal, you know, the same goal, that we want affordability for our students and that the faculty are using the best materials. They're not just picking something because that's the easy way, because the publishers have it all presented for them, that they're actually picking materials that fit the needs of their students and what they're teaching.
Yeah, thanks, Holly. I'll just add a couple notes here. We had an example where the math department was encountering issues getting some of their textbooks during COVID specifically. And Holly connected them with me. We got some options. It was very important that they have physical copies of those books. And I think that's something that we're continuing to build awareness on, is that we can obtain those physical copies of OER, that we know OER does not always have to exist in the digital space only, that it can exist in print form as well. And the math department did their review of the textbooks and found that they preferred the OER over the publisher version options that they had. And so we were able to then build it into the rental program. And we've fostered a really good working relationship then with the people in that department, which then has been a good way to kind of help that flow out into other areas where we're able to reach out to other faculty, because faculty communications are usually more effective, that we found, than one of us reaching out. So that's been kind of the workflow that we've established and has been working for us. Obviously, we're always going back and revising things and finding areas for improvement, but it's definitely been a good way for us to go forward with this. All right, so faculty and student feedback, we've mentioned a bit how this program has been student driven, and Holly mentioned that the Textbook Affordability Committee and the rental program were student driven and students voted for that. But students also advocated for the creation of the state OER funding through our state government. And that was something that they've been working on since 2018 before it finally got into the budget. So both of these programs and these initiatives are rooted in our students and their voices in this process. And that's been a helpful tool that we've been able to use then when we go out and encourage use of the rental program, encourage use of OER and applications for the grants, is that we're able to say, the students have voted for this. This is what they want. This is a good thing for you to consider as part of that. So from our student and faculty feedback, we found that specifically the My Open Math Lab platform, which is one of our bigger OER projects at the college and has been implemented in a good portion of our math courses. About 50% of our total math courses are using OER in some form right now. That it's reduced the software costs, so homework questions are coded to score automatically within the program. And Holly, do you want to share a little bit about the exact cost savings for students in classes that use My Open Math over the commercial product?
Yeah, so again, we have that, $7 per degree credit. So if we're looking at an intermediate algebra course, it is a 3-credit course. So students would pay the $21 rental fee, and that would cover their textbook. And then if they're using the My Open Math, there's no additional charge. So they would just have that $21 fee to cover their digital material as well as their physical OER book. For some of the intermediate algebra courses, again, still 3 credits, but if they're using My Math Lab from Pearson, that is $121, roughly with tax here. And so when we look at that, you have the $121 plus the $21 rental fee. So students are paying $142 if they're taking that section that's using My Math Lab, versus the other students that are taking the section that uses My Open Math, which is just $21 rental fee. So huge cost savings. And if we take that 142 and times that by 25 students, that's $3,550 that students are paying in that one section that's using My Math Lab. So we've seen huge cost savings for our students within the math department, and they're actually adding 3 more courses for OER upcoming this fall that they're switching for statistics, calculus, and then another algebra one that Rachel helped them find. So the math department has increased their OER and that cost savings to the students.
Yeah, and we have a substantial amount of students who are in our dual enrollment credit courses. And that's an especially important area that we're looking at textbook affordability as a way to foster inclusivity within our student populations, and a way for us to allow other schools and more schools to participate in this program by reducing the costs of the materials to the school districts and to the students. And additionally, faculty member has said the My Open Math platform is better than the ones that students have to pay for. And they say, I believe this is because the designer's top priority is student success rather than profit. And a lot of these Maya Open Math course shells have been developed by faculty at the college. And something that we've heard is that faculty really enjoy that collaboration between each other. And it's led to stronger connections within the department itself and allowed the faculty members to enjoy a level of creativity where they create their own problem sets. Faculty member can go in and create a problem based on something that's in the news. And so it's very timely and relevant to students, and they see it right away. They also say that there's fewer student complaints, so it's cleaner and easier to navigate, that instructors are able to match the problems and the homework with their own teaching styles. So faculty are also more engaged in the instruction and more engaged in the courses because they're able to exercise their own creative minds and being able to, a lot of faculty enjoy the coding and that sort of thing. Other faculty just enjoy using the course shells as they are. So I think that's a really important thing to highlight too, is that it's not just for the students, that faculty also get benefits from these OER initiatives and OER projects at the college.
And then I would just add one more thing, kind of touching on that too, Rachel, is we've heard feedback from faculty, especially in the math department. I don't know if other colleges have as long of a hiring process as we have here at Madison College, but a lot of times our part-time faculty, they're hired the week before the course is to start. And so prior to the rental and OER here, it was a struggle for faculty that came in the week before classes started to figure out what materials they were going to use, get those materials adopted, and then make sure there were enough copies for the students to have them. With my open math, and kind of like Rachel was saying, that course shell, the math department has a course shell built out for each course. And so when they hire in these part-timers, last minute, they can just hand this course shell over to them. It's all set up, it's ready to go. The part-time faculty member, they don't have to stress out about what materials they're going to use, how they're going to teach, putting together their course last minute. It's built for them. And then the math department works with them throughout the semester on making any changes that needs to happen to adjust to their teaching style throughout the semester. And then, they can make bigger changes for the following semester once they have more time. So that's been a huge benefit to the faculty and the departments here at the college.
Yeah, definitely. And we're currently in the process at the college of switching our LMS from Blackboard to Brightspace. And the way that My Open Math is set up, the faculty it's been very easy for them to bring that content into Brightspace and be able to use it with Brightspace and the OER as well, because they aren't as tied to the specific software and products that are being utilized within the commercial vendors' access codes, and they're able to go in and customize that a bit more too. So what are some of the advantages with the bookstore and library partnership? So it reduces staff time on technical assistance when we're using the OER. There is a substantial amount of time that's required to support access code use at the college. The library is the primary student technology help desk. And so we get a lot of the questions about, how do I use an access code? How do I navigate to the content that I need? And then our favorite is when the platform crashes during finals week, which happens almost every year. So we've been able to kind of free up our staff then so that we can tackle other things that come up at the semester start. And as Holly mentioned, the ordering process is basically eliminated because students have access to that OER right away. It's in their LMS. All they have to do is log in, and there's none of the kind of paywall barriers that exist within the access code use. And then we do have the course packs, of course, and it reduces cost to the bookstore. The library does have a bookstore or a reserve where we keep copies of books in the library for students to come in and use. That is something that faculty have to bring in. But if it's an OER, it's something that we can just have there, obviously, and or help students print out pages if they need it, and the print textbook isn't available just yet in the bookstore and so forth. So anything you would like to add, Holly?
I guess just touching on to the course packs. The course packs are printed in-house, so they have their quick turnaround time. And so when we see enrollment numbers going up the week before school starts or even the week of school, we're still able to quickly get those materials printed for the students. And same for in the OER cases, right? Even if we have to wait for a week for a physical copy to come to us, students still have access to the digital copy of the book. And so students aren't waiting for, a week, 2 weeks and not having any course materials. They still have means of getting those course materials and may not be in the format that they want at that point in time. But they still have the ability to access that so that they don't fall behind on their coursework and they don't have to drop out of that course because they fell behind. So that's just, another big advantage. And that's also an advantage to the bookstore rental program too, knowing that we're able to obtain that for the students and we don't have to turn them away and say, sorry, come back in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks when the item arrives.
Yeah, and there's obviously situations where financial aid does not come in time. I've heard, especially with our veterans populations, that they often do not get their financial aid at the start of the semester. So this is a way that students obviously don't have to worry about that cost. Like they can just start on their courses and they don't have that burden of obtaining the access code and finding the money for that. So it's another big advantage, I think, for student access and equity when we're looking something that the Textbook Affordability Committee did was look at our student populations and how they were impacted by different costs too. So we're always continually reviewing for that equity piece. All right. So what should you do, or what ways can you go about exploring some of these initiatives that we talked about? Holly, would you like to take the first one?
Yeah, so start having those discussions at your campus about starting a textbook affordability committee. One of the biggest advantages to the rental program, the college, the faculty and students here is having a textbook affordability committee, because especially if you can get it where you have someone from, the various different departments, you have more players at the table, you have more buy-in, and they can go back and talk to their managers or their deans about the initiative that's brought forth. And the more people that you have pushing that initiative, the more likely it is to be successful and more likely you are to get buy-in across the college. And so it's also very beneficial because you hear about different issues or feedback from departments that you may not have heard from, and you build that collaboration and that outreach. You build that networking, and it's been great here because without TAC, Rachel and I probably would not have connected. We probably would not have formed this relationship between the bookstore and the library. And this relationship has been beneficial to the students, to the faculty, the budget, right? If you want to talk numbers, and financials, it's been a huge cost savings to our students and faculty. It's kept that rental fee at $7 because we've added more OER initiatives. And, you know, that collaboration to the other departments, you know, the advisors, having faculty on the Textbook Affordability Committee, they can all go back to their areas and talk about these initiatives. And then it's more open to where Rachel and I can go to these departments and do presentations or have discussions or go to faculty meetings and talk to them about the rental program or OER, because that door has been open because they're part of the Textbook Affordability Committee. And at the end of the day, we're all on that committee because affordability is something that's important to us.
Yeah, and I think it continually goes back to making those connections, which can sometimes be a challenging or daunting task, I think. But I think finding those faculty in those departments that are interested in this, or at least curious about it, I think is important. Like I said, the math department has been so involved with OER and has done such a wonderful job with incorporating it into their program. And that was really because the faculty identified a desire to explore other options. And we were there with the options that they could look at from the affordability and OER perspective. And we were able to make that easy for them to explore through our back and forth with myself creating the resource lists, and then how they would identify one and go back to Holly and say, hey, can we get a printed copy of this so that we can review it and see what it looks like? And we were able to do that. So I think finding those areas is super important. And then connecting with the students, we are always including students and their student government in our conversations, and they serve on the Textbook Affordability Committee, on our OER steering committee as well, and making sure that they're continually included in those conversations so that our students are able to talk up OER and talk up the good things that are going on with their faculty and with other students, so that you kind of keep that conversation flowing within your institution. And then going back to our admin, like Holly mentioned, we have the budget numbers from the TAC committee where we're able to say, this is exactly how much students are spending on this. This is how much they're saving with OER, and being able to express to them the impact that this is having on the college's budget, on our students, and making them aware of the true impact of textbook models, whatever that looks like, so that they're aware that this is something that the college is valuing, and this is something that is important for them to continually talk about and have those conversations on their levels.
Holly and Rachel, I don't want to interrupt you. This has been really interesting. And I'm just thinking about like I'm sure this is a wonderful like recruitment and retention thing that you use for your college to keep students there, right? Because they don't really have to pay for their textbooks. But just to keep an eye on time, there's a couple of minutes left, and I wanted to open the floor up to any questions that the group might have. I don't see any in chat and Q&A, but I just wanted to be mindful of time and let anyone pop in if they have a question for Rachel or Holly about this wonderful program. I wish we could implement something like that here.
Yeah, and we do network with other institutions within WTCS, and we're very proactive about our OER options. So we're continually reviewing them. So it's a process. And that was the end of our presentation. So I'll stop sharing.
Well, there's a question asking, how many courses do you work with at a time?
That's a good question. So we, at any given time, we are working with several faculty, and they are then going out and looking at presenting this to their department. So I'm not sure exactly how many we're working with, but it's usually a fair number.
And then there's another question asking, how do you handle getting materials to students who might be long distance students or might not come physically to your campus?
We do have an online e-commerce website, and so they can go online. We have a registrar link that is connected right within our student information system. So students can go into their student schedule, click rent, purchase books, and then it loads all of their materials that they need for their courses into their shopping cart, and they just check out, and then they can ship it out via FedEx or send it to one of the other Madison College remote locations.
It's really nice. Okay, well, that is time for everyone. Thank you so much, Holly and Rachel, for your presentation. And thank you everyone who attended. Please feel free to attend our next session, which, well, we have two concurrent sessions, a blueprint for OER professional development, how 5 colleges developed an OER Academy through courage and collaboration. And then the other session is open, a future for education. So thank you all for attending, and yeah, have a lovely day.
Thank you.
Everyone.